don't know if you've noticed this, I'm sure the audience has too, the Democrats don't like anything that gets in their way of what they think they deserve, which is like they think they have a direct kind of line to your kids, your wallet, your rights, your everything. And they don't like anything that steps in the way of that. And they do seem somewhat even more, it's funny to say this, even more off the rails since this past week than ever. I mean, just outright calling for basically their position of abortion at any time. Just these positions of just outrageous statements that are coming out of them from Whoopi to Joy to Ana Navarro, who I think is Ana Navarro's in a tie for craziest statement of the past 7 days that I'll play for you. But they just seem really unhinged because why? They don't like pushback, and they're getting it. They're getting it from our institutions, and they're getting it from you. And they're getting it in spades and in many, many ways right now. And they see it, and the internalizing of it or whatever they're doing is actually bringing out even more of their true colors, if that's possible.
I think you nailed that. That's exactly right. I think they don't like hear and know. They're like incorrigible little children. And they're being told your agendas are way too radical. It's nothing American about them. And we reject them. We don't want them. And more people are just brave enough to say it. BLM is a joke. Antifa is a joke. The Democratic Party is a joke. You know, Congress is a joke. The president is worse than a joke. I mean, he's a charade. You know, this whole thing is a disaster, and we've all had it. And people aren't afraid, like, oh, you know, I'm going to be, you know, the moral majority. The majority itself is starting to speak up more. And, you know, they don't care what the mainstream media or social media says at this point. Well, as we know, people are leaving Facebook in droves, right?
Yeah.
People are leaving Twitter in droves. Yep. You know, they don't care anymore. So they're getting their pushback, and now as you said, we're seeing the level of rage, hate, and evil they'll step to.
Yeah, and I would equate it to a panic. They are now in a full-blown panic.
Yep. Well
because everything, their whole utopia, what they wanted to achieve, we finally got our guy back, and we got rid of that evil Trump, and now we're going to make things. Well, you know what? Elections have consequences. And the 2016 election, those consequences are now being seen by what he did with the Supreme Court and the other judges that he put in around the country, and and also waking people up, shaking them out of their stupor of, hey, you know, the slow creep towards socialism that we were on a path to. Well, now all of a sudden they're going crazy because they're like, oh my goodness, we got to speed this up. Somebody's going to see what we're doing, and now we can see it all. It's plain as day. And they're trying to throw it in your face and make you feel like, oh, you're crazy if you don't want to do this. No, we're not. We see what you're up to, and we don't agree with it.
So tied for the Crazy Town lead this week. Let's go here. It's a tie. Cut one would be choice number one. This is one of the more reprehensible people to ever watch or ever be on TV. And that would be Ana Navarro, so-called Republican. This is what she said on CNN. Now, I'm not even going to try to spin what I hear. You just tell me what you hear. Cut one, G, roll it.
No one has spoken up for the last 50 years for the unborn child, the sanctity of life. And now people have had the opportunity to speak up for the unborn child, and that's important. Look, I know Ana is a woman of faith. She has a huge heart. She is very passionate. But also I know that the Catholic faith believes in life and supports the sanctity of life. And I find it's just, I don't understand how you can say on one hand you support life, yet you're fine with a woman's decision to choose abortion. And look, there are provisions in place to protect the mother before, during, and after the child.
And I am not anybody to tell you what you need to do with your life or with your uterus. And because I have a family with a lot of special needs kids. I have a brother who's 57 and has the mental and motor skills of a 1-year-old. And I know what that means financially, emotionally, physically for a family. And I know not all families can do it. And I have a step-granddaughter who was born with Down syndrome. And you know what? It is very difficult in Florida to get services. It is not as easy as it sounds on paper. And I've got another step-grandson who is very autistic, who has autism, and it is incredible. And their mothers and people who are in that society, who are in that community, will tell you that they've considered suicide because that's how difficult it is to get help, because that's how lonely they feel, because they can't get other jobs, because they have financial issues, because the care that they're able to give their other children suffers. And so why can I be Catholic and still think this is a wrong decision? Because I'm American. I'm Catholic inside the church. I'm Catholic when it comes to me. But there's a lot of Americans who are not Catholic and are not Christian and are not Baptist. And you have no damn right to tell them what they should do with their bodies. Nobody does.
Okay. So there's so much about that's Looney Tunes, at least in the last part.
There's so much to unravel.
Yeah. What the part that I tried to figure out, and I'm not going to try to project what I think she meant, but what is the distinction between special needs children and abortion? Her whole thing about people.
Is she saying those kids should have been aborted?
Well, I mean, I don't know how you. Again, I don't want to project what.
I'm sorry, Dee, but that sounded to me, all I got out of that was, and tell me if I'm wrong, it sounded to me like she was saying if they could have identified those children had special needs, they should have just aborted them
before they were born.
I mean,
or at any time.
Or right up to when they were born.
Which is really officially the Democratic position now, is pretty much abortion on demand, infanticide at any time.